There's some questions here from the audience, if you don't mind. Let's get to them. From Antonio Cardoso Neto. Do you have some theory about the origin of conscience, the so-called big problem, and quote unquote?
The origin of consciousness is the big problem. It's the hard problem. I don't have a theory about it. If I did, I would win the Nobel Prize. I think that it's philosophically difficult to even identify what the problem is. You could imagine a computer that, indeed, computer programs have been written that do very intelligent things like play chess, but I think nobody believes that when they're playing chess against a computer that it feels anything. They don't believe that it feels mortification when it misses a good move or something of that sort. So you can have intelligence without consciousness. Why do we have consciousness? Why do we have the sensation of redness? It's easy to see why we might have sense organs that distinguish wavelength of light. It's useful to distinguish light of different wavelengths. But why does it have to be red? Why does it have to have that peculiar red quality, which I can't describe to you, but I know what it is and you know what it is because you have it inside your own head. We don't even know whether the way I see red is the same way you see red, and that's a philosophical chestnut which may never be answered. What is this idea of self-awareness, this feeling that there is a me lurking somewhere behind my eyes? The Greeks thought it was in your chest, by the way. There's an I, there's a me that's lurking inside me. There's a you that's lurking inside you. And I don't know what it's like to be you. I just guess that it must be a bit similar to being me. These are philosophically very difficult questions. As a biologist, a materialist, Darwinian biologist, I'm committed to the view that it all happens in the brain. It's created by the activity of neurons in the brain, but I'm as baffled as anybody else as to exactly how that happens.
Teasing here from Paula Fadu. She wants to know if you're afraid of death.
I'm not looking forward to the process of dying, mainly because, unlike my dog and your horse and your cat, I will not have the privilege of being able to go to the vet and be painlessly put to sleep. I want to die under general anesthetic, and because I'm human, I'm unique among species in not being allowed to do that. There is a widespread bigotry against euthanasia or assisted suicide, which means that most of us are condemned to suffer when we die, whereas our pets are allowed to die under a general anesthetic. So I am not looking forward to dying. As for being dead, I shan't miss life. As Mark Twain said, I was dead for billions of years before I was born and never suffered the slightest inconvenience. If I were told that I was going to die very soon, I would be deeply disappointed because I love life and I intend to go on loving life for as long as possible, so I would indeed be very disappointed. I don't think that's quite the same as fear. It is disappointment. If I were religious, I might very well be afraid of death because I might very well be afraid of what was coming to me after death. I have an Australian friend who once rather irreverently and unkindly remarked that if you go into churches, you very often see very old people, and he expressed it as, I try to do the Australian accent, which may not come across the translation, cramming for the final.
Oh, well, I guess along those lines we could, as part of the fantasy world, if indeed you died and all of a sudden you found yourself in front of God, what would you tell him?
Well, the first thing I think I'd say is, which God are you? Are you Baal or Zeus or Thor or Wotan or Mithras or Apollo or an Aztec god or a Maori god, Australian Aboriginal god? So the next thing I would say is what Bertrand Russell said when asked a similar question: not enough evidence, God, not enough evidence.
Se você quiser comentar ou saber mais sobre os bastidores do programa de hoje, entre no nosso blog, no site da Globo News.